From the kitchen of the cabin, a look at the games that made us who we are in Ben and Steve's Advent Calendar. So here we are, 9th of December. It's not a special day really, the 9th of December. It's just, the 9th of December. But
I mean, it is what you make of it, Ben.
I mean, all of my days are special, Steve, because I'm a special human being.
I'm very excited by the 9th of December because this year it's a Friday. Today is Friday.
That's it. What do you mean this year it's Friday? You mean today as you're sitting there live on December the 9th, not recording this in advance, you mean?
It's December 9th right now. Friday.
So
I'm looking forward to the weekend. Gonna have a drink,
Explain to the listeners, Steve. What is it like getting up really early in the morning and going to fucking PP World and, logging on to the internet to talk to me every morning, genuinely every morning in the bustling streets of New York City?
It's really not what I thought I would be doing at this age when I was a kid.
It's better though, isn't it? I bet you thought you'd be miserable smoking 20 Ronsons a day and dreading the footfall of your horrible bloody manky kids, didn't you? You get to speak to me, Steve.
Is this some kind of projection on your part?
No, I don't smoke and I don't have children, so I'm not projecting anything.
Do you know what I wanted to do when I was in university, as you call it? College, as we say here?
It's probably something worthy and nerdy like archaeology or some shit, wasn't it?
There was a point when I wanted to be an archaeologist. 100%.
Sure, of course there was.
100% I wanted to be an archaeologist, but actually, what I thought I was going to do after college was go to Hollywood and become a screenwriter or something.
Really?
Yeah, I never told you that, did I?
No, I didn't realise you had artistic aspirations.
Well, screenwriting.
I mean, because you're scared of writing, aren't you?
Well, that's after grad school. Back then, I loved it. I was into it. I think I majored in English because I was a creative writer, and I thought that's what you do as a creative writer. I didn't realize that by studying English literature, you have the joy of the written word completely beaten out of you. And
did you write a story called "Why Won't the Girls Kiss Me" by Stephen Sirach?
No, because I didn't have that problem then.
Oh right, really? I mean, I know you're married to a lovely woman now, but I get the impression when you were in your teens and 20s, you weren't tearing it up. You weren't the Don Juan of Princeton or whatever.
Should we compare records then?
I mean, we could. I've got a surprisingly good record for someone who's as offensive and ugly as I am. So
I mean, I would say that there was a slow period, and then it really picked up. But the early years, they're tough for everybody, aren't they?
Anyway, this is about board games. This isn't war stories on the battlefield of Lemoore, Steve.
No, that's another kind of game entirely.
Indeed, the grand game. So we again, Steve, replete with the classics.
The classics.
Talk to me.
These are not games that I found out about later and decided to check out. Right? These are games that I played at the time. And once again, we have a game that somebody brought to the board game meetup in the 1990s, and that's when I learned the most interesting, fascinating fact of all in the entire board game arcana.
What is this?
The fact that the designer of the most popular, world-altering collectible card game of all time, Magic the Gathering, was also a board game designer, and his board games are really good. He could do both things. Apparently, he can do anything, and he's still doing it today. Richard
Indeed.
Garfield, this guy is friend of the show, friend of yours, Richard Garfield.
Well, exactly. Close personal friend with Garthy.
I mean, he didn't have to do it. Magic the Gathering would have been enough, and yet he designed a whole bunch of other games that are great. And I don't know how people feel about Robo Rally today. Probably that it's far too ponderous and goes on too long, and you have to tweak it in certain ways to make it playable. But at the time, I thought this game was absolutely brilliant. This is a programmed movement game, and I don't think you've played this game.
I've never played it, no.
Yeah, my copy of it is still in the States, and one day I need to bring it over, or maybe I'll just buy a later version. But you have to. So what's genius about this game is on your turn you get dealt some cards, and each card has like a kind of movement on it. It would be like turn left, turn right, go move forward 1 step, move forward 2 steps, reverse, that kind of thing. A stop, don't move at all. And you have these registers. I think you have 5 registers or whatever it is, and each turn you have to program 5 of your cards in those registers, and then those are the movements that your robot is going to make that turn. The problem is that your robot has to interact with the board, could potentially be interacting with other robots. It might get pushed and turned and attacked, actually. Like your robot has health points, and you're trying to get your robot to touch these flags on the board in a specific order before all the other robots do it, or before you get completely destroyed. And you do it by programming your registers and hoping it works out. And you also you can plan ahead. You can plan to be rotated or pushed by elements on the board, which operate at different points of the turn, depending on the register. You can plan somehow even to shoot your opponents and try to kill them. You can get upgrades to your robot, like better weapons or like faster movement. There was one expansion that gave you the equivalent of an atomic bomb, and it would do like 64 points. You only have 10 health, but it would do 64 points of damage to the squares immediately around you, then 32 to the ones around that, and then 16 and 8 and 4. This is the Armed and Dangerous expansion. I mean, I just thought that was like brilliant. Still costs like $100 to buy that expansion. Still my white whale among all gaming paraphernalia. I just had so much fun with Robo Rally, and I want to tell you a story then.
Go on, tell me a story.
1995, I attended the Origins Game Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the home, by the way, of Richard Garfield. This was 1 year after Robo Rally first came out. I think I went there because I met a girl, and she said she was going to be there, but then I ended up entering oh no, wait, sorry, that was a different convention. That was a different pathetic moment in my life. That was Avalon Hill Con, I think the following year. So forget that I said that, okay? We're not going to talk about this embarrassing episode in my pathetic youth. I went to Philadelphia on purpose to go to the Origins Game Fair because it was being held there that year. I think subsequently it was always held in Columbus. So this was the last year it was held in like an arbitrary city, and the last time it was held in Philly, and it was pretty close to where I lived. So I went and I entered the Robo Rally tournament, and I won, Ben. I won the Robo Rally World Tournament, or whatever it was. In
so am I here with an award-winning athlete?
You are. That's 3 games of Robo Rally in a row, by the way. So I passed the first round, semifinals, finals. I won. I am a world champion Robo Rally player. And also at the same Origins, I was like wandering around chatting with people, and at some point I ended up talking to 2 guys, and one of those 2 guys was Dave Arneson.
Wow. Really?
Just sort of standing there with a name tag that said Dave Arneson. And I was like, you're Dave Arneson. Like the Dave Arneson. You designed Dungeons and Dragons. It was him.
And what was he like?
Old. Very, very old. And I don't even remember what we talked about. If we talked, I think I was really like in shock. I mean, at the time I was like a teenager and super into D&D and vaguely aware of the fact that some human beings had created it at some point, but you don't expect to like suddenly run into them, right? I knew Gary Gygax, I think, was dead by that point. I don't really remember, but I also knew who Dave Arneson was. And I think I mentioned before, I didn't know too many game designers. Like I'd heard of Richard Garfield and I'd heard of Dave Arneson, and otherwise like board games, not really aware of any of them. And there he was, Dave Arneson, same year that I won the Robo Rally tournament. It's a good anecdote, right?
It's an amazing anecdote. And I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to think about Richard Garfield and Reiner Knizia. I think they're 2 people that people may say should be on the Mount Rushmore of game designers, right?
Absolutely.
And I think what's really fascinating, if you think about them as designers, Knizia is very precise and engineered, whereas Garfield loves chaos. I don't know if you've played The Great Dalmuti, but it's amazing. and utterly chaotic and makes no sense. And I think Garfield loves that idea that games shouldn't, and this is saying a lot from the designer of Magic, but shouldn't be deliberative, should be chaotic, and should be up for grabs for everyone at all times, right?
And his games are just, they have all that, and yet they manage to be completely correct, right?
Right.
He's a mathematician. Yeah, he's able to present you all of this chaos on a platter, but like behind the scenes of that chaos, that is a very finely tuned machine every single time. And if you want to play the game that is the epitome of this chaos that you so aptly describe, it's Robo Rally. Then you've got to play Robo Rally, even if it seems like a relic from another age. This programmed movement mechanism, I mean, I don't know if he's the first one to come up with it, but it must be the apotheosis. It's just such an incredible experience to go through a frustrating game of Robo Rally that you just barely manage to survive.
So we play Euro games primarily, and often you lean towards heavier Euro games. And these are games that, if they don't have control, certainly market themselves of having the illusion of control. Why is it something like Robo Rally that's as chaotic, that has the potential for something that completely out of your control to completely scupper your whole game? Why does it appeal to you so much?
I think the thrill of pulling it off. Like, if you manage to it's like a race game, but you're also trying to get through a maze, and it's a puzzle. And I think I'm really attracted to these games that are like puzzles, because you're sitting there trying to figure out, okay, with what I have to work with, how do I get through to the next round, right? How do I move my robot from point A to point B in the optimum way? I avoid the obstacles, I don't get killed. And by the way, I said you have 10 health points, right? Or whatever it is. At a certain point, if you keep losing health, then your registers get locked. So whatever card you have there, that card stays there until you heal. And you could end up having half or all of your registers locked, and your robot is just doing the same thing every turn. It's like going forward one step, turning to the right, going around in circles, going straight ahead, getting shot, pushed, rotated, maneuvered, and you could end up in a hopeless situation. And it's probably why Robo Rally wouldn't work today, because this is not what people want in games, right? They don't want this kind of difficulty and chaos and the potential to actually be ejected from the game entirely. People want games that are a bit more tractable than that. But I just remember feeling when I played this game, probably as much as anything, this joy of achievement, actually getting through and surviving all of that chaos. So it isn't that you don't have control. I think Richard Garfield gives you all the control in the world. It's just puts you in a context where everything else is out of control, and you have to somehow survive it with the control that you have.
Thank you for listening to this show and indulging our overweening nostalgia. If you would like to support the show, you can do that by going to patreon.com/5G4D. And we both wish you a very Merry Christmas.